In this video, we're going to do a popularly requested video on the best glute strength exercises for someone to use if they're doing generalized fitness, but also gymnastics and dance and cheerleading and circus. Some really important active kind of strengthening drills that are going to help you get the most out of your training. So before we dive in here, a couple things we have to do. If anyone is familiar with the last few weeks, you know that we've been doing some giveaways. We did an epic giveaway that gave away Ticket Symposium for last month, and this month we're doing the same thing with a bonus. So if you drop down in the comment section right now, you put hashtag 24shift in the first 24 hours of the video, you'll be automatically entered to win not only a set of Symposium tickets, which I'll talk about at the end of the video, but also an additional bonus we're going to throw on top of that. So make sure you drop in the comment section. Make sure you put that down right now to be automatically entered to win when you're seeing this video. Also, if you're back to the channel for the first time, welcome. It's good to see you. Drop down and just hit the notification bell and the subscription to make sure that you get all the first videos as soon as they come out. But we're going to dive in right here for the things that you came for. All right, so number one is going to be a hip lift, right? This is probably seen on the channel a couple times before, but man, this is so overlooked. This is something that I really think that people are not doing enough of. This is one of the best exercises for the glute max and to get direct strengthening. And these carry over really, really well to many things like sprinting, opening for tumbling, jumps, leaps, running, all the things that a lot of people are looking for, whether you're training just in your everyday life or you are in gymnastics and cheerleading and dance and circus and all the really more aesthetic sports. Single leg weighted hip lifts need to be in everyone's program. And I really feel like people are still missing the boat on these ones. So pretty simple to do, but 8 to 10 reps, 3 sets on each side, about a 1 second tempo up and down. And I like doing this or some sort of a direct glute training exercise like a hinge twice per week. So maybe you do a deadlift one day, you do a glute training lift the other day, something in between there. But I find that these are very, very helpful. Common errors just to look out for. Number one, we don't want the head to be arching back too much. You can see Heather's doing a really good job of getting that nice chin tucked position. Okay, number two, we don't want to see the lower back arch too much. If someone's stiff in their hip flexors or maybe they're not having a good time getting all the way up, it's okay to go in partial range of motion just to the very, very edge of where their glutes are doing the work and not their back. That's totally okay. Number three, we want that foot to be right in line with the knee underneath. We don't want to see that foot go too close in towards the hips and the block, because then it starts to become more of a quad dominant exercise. Okay, so just kind of keep an eye out for those things, but this is really the best place to start if you're looking for a nice, easy, simple bang for your buck exercise. All right, number two is going to be another classic one, but a side band walk. So doing lateral hip work or lateral walk is really important for the glute med and the glute min. Okay, so glute max, glute med, glute min are really the big ones we're going to go at, along with maybe some of the deep hip rotators. As well, they're not directly glute training muscles. They're super important for hip health and for hip function. So side band walks are very easy to do, and you're just trying to think about making a nice big step out and a nice slow step back in. If you're doing these well, you're going to feel quite a bit of burning in the outside of your hips, and that's really what we're looking for. Okay, so 10 sets back and forth, about 1 to 3 seconds per step. And also we want to make sure that someone is doing a band that is actually hard enough. Okay, I can't tell you how many times I see super high level athletes that are super strong and super powerful, and they're using like a very easy yellow mini band, right? Make sure you do a band that's hard enough to make it worth your time. We're trying to get stronger. That's really the goal. Okay, common errors we see here is one, we have someone who's really kind of waddling back and forth and doing a little bit of a side to side lean. Okay, the second thing we see that's an error, someone is not actually in this quarter squat that Heather is showing. They're really stiff, they're really upright, and they're kind of just doing it with their knees a little bit. So we want to make sure we actually squat down a little bit so we get the glute meds engaged. And number three is that we see someone just sprinting through it, right? They're really just not taking that time, particularly on the slow lower. Like when you step sideways, when you bring that foot back together, we want a nice slow step in, because that's actually an eccentric loading of the glute max, the glute med and the glute min on this side. So that really slow eccentric lower, that step in, is super, super important. All right, number three is going to be a tantrum. And again, you could argue this is a little bit of a hamstring and also a glute exercise together, but these are so good to do for a lot of fast activation of the hamstrings, the glutes in a long bridge position. So I really like doing specific isolated work like you saw with the hip lift, or maybe a single leg RDL for the hamstrings as well. But I find that many people are not doing something at a very fast, blistering pace where they can truly work on what's like high velocity, right? High output, high intensity. That's what we really want to do. So the way you do a tantrum, if you're not familiar with these, is you put a heavy you put a heavy resistance band around here, maybe a pull-up band or maybe a bunch of different bands together. You put the heels up in a nice long bridge, and you essentially for 20 seconds just go as hard as you can. So that's why they're called tantrums, because it's kind of a joke, like someone's throwing a tantrum when they spill their milk as a kid. But essentially going as fast as you possibly can, as quick as you possibly can, with maximal intensity. I really love these, and I think they're a great way to kind of get a blend between the specific strength work, but also speed work that you might see with running or sprinting or jumping. So I really like doing about 20 seconds here. Again, the tempo is going to be very fast, about a second on each one. 2 sets is really good with a nice break, and I like doing these just 1 to 2 days per week to kind of add in some of the training. So again, some of the errors we're going to see here, number one might be most obvious, is someone's going way too slow, right? They're doing really, really slow, really like easy kicks, which is not a place for that, right? We want maximal effort, which is number two. So really fast flutters, really fast kicking, and we want want to make sure someone is breathing the entire time, okay? We don't want to have somebody hold their breath for all of it because we're not going to have that good core contraction going on. So tantrums, if you're not familiar with those, you can also do them seated or standing, but they're also more of a hamstring one when you do like that. This one gets the glutes going really, really well, and I think it's super, super helpful. All right, then moving on to the second one, counting down our list here is a farmer carry or a suitcase carry walk, okay? So a farmer carry walk is when you do 2 weights in your hands. A suitcase carry walk is with 1 weight in your hand. So they're kind of different. They both have similar goals, but they have some different structure. So a farmer carry is a lot more of the core, but also a lot heavier weight, obviously. Whereas a suitcase carry with it on one hand is going to be a lot more balance and a lot more isolated glute med or outside hip work. So I think both are really good for the glute and for the hip. And a couple things we're getting here is one is we're getting that nice big stance time on that left leg down, as you can see. So a lot of really good activation of the stance leg. We're also getting a ton of really good core bracing and a lot of breathing on top of that, right? Which is why I love them. They're so good to do because they mimic a lot of the sport forces you're going to need. All the exercises that we like, the ones that strengthen the muscles, are great. The hip lifts and things like that. They isolatedly strengthen the muscle, but we're actually going to be upright on our feet for a lot of what we're doing in sports or in life. So we want to make sure we train for that. So errors that we see here sometimes is that they go too light, right? They can just blow right through it. We really want this to be like, it's almost falling on your hands. It's so heavy, right? We want that challenge on their core and on their frame and on their hip. Number 2 is they're leaning way too much. Okay, they might be swaying their weight side to side to get onto that stance leg, and they might not be spending enough time on that isolated march. We like that march because it really makes them do a full 1 second pause on the actual stance leg. And then 3 is kind of more of a technical thing for the upper bodies. We don't want to see a massive slump. We don't want to see the shoulders forward. We don't want the weights like dangling off someone. We want that strong up and back shoulder position to make sure it's a nice stacked alignment of the hips. So these are super helpful, and I really recommend people do these. All right, and then my absolute favorite ones that I think many people try to do, but they don't do all the way through, all the way to the highest intensity, will be super clams or some side plank abductions. Okay, so a regular clamshell like this is you're kind of holding that top leg and you're going up and down. A super clam is when you're doing with a really hard really hard resistance band, and you're actively going up and down on each rep. So we want to see someone who's doing a very hard progression. And the reason why these super clams are so good is there's so many awesome muscles working at the same time, right? So we clearly have the lateral core working here. We have the down-sided glute med, which if you look at research on EMG activity, actually has the most activity on the down portion. Then we're also getting the hip rotators on the top. So I love this one as a number 1 slot because it gets so many good things. This is like a nice 4-for-1 exercise, right? Core, outer hip rotators, and breathing patterns, right? That's super, super good for everything. So that's the version we do for the deep hip rotators. And then we can also do this with a up and down motion. That's the super clam piece when you go up and down on each side. Or a super abduction is when we're going up and down on each rep. So now we have the core, we have the downside hip is working up and down glute med, and the top leg glute is working with the band resistance. So if you're not familiar with these, if you've ever tried these before, if you have the right band and you do a couple sets of 10 on each side, your hips are absolutely roasting by the end of it. And that's why they're super helpful. You just need a little bit of space, an appropriately sized band, and almost every single person can do a version of these, whether it's with the lighter band in the clamshell or whether you're doing this kind of super clam version on the bottom. So clamshells are when you have the top leg rotating, and then of course an abduction is when you have this top leg going up and down. So, okay, and just common errors that we see here sometimes when you watch this, like I said, is the band is just too light, right? That's definitely something we see. Number 2 is they don't go high enough. This person kind of cuts this short right to here, and they only go to here and then back down. Really make sure you go all the way up and you extend all the way through that nice range of motion. And then 3 is they're just going way too fast, right? They're just going pop, 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 up and down, up and up and down. We don't want that, right? We want someone to go slow, pause at the top and hold for 1, and then come all the way back down. That's how you really get the most out of those exercises. And then if you are interested in this, of course, we have our 2023 SHIFT Symposium. If you have like the information about strength and flexibility and gymnastics coaching, whatever you're doing, if you're in the sport of gymnastics, this is an absolute must see. Okay, so this is going to be 3 days of 30 expert speakers, 30 lectures across the entire world. We have over 150 people sign up right now. Last year, we had about 700 people total, and we're expecting a giant international audience. And if you sign up, you have lifetime access to all the recordings, all the handouts, all the PDFs, all the Q&A sessions. We're just doing as much as we can to help the community. So if you're a gymnastics medical provider, a physical therapist, athletic trainer, a doctor, a gymnastics coach in men's and women's, or a gymnastics strength conditioning professional, this is absolutely the weekend you want to attend. This is our main event of the year. We get a huge response, and I want to make sure everybody knows about it because it's going to be an incredible opportunity for everyone to learn. So if you want to check that out, please feel free. But if you just enjoyed the video, make sure you drop down in the comment section below, put that hashtag 24shift so you could possibly win tickets to the symposium and also a free gift that we're giving away. Also, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel and get that notification bell on so that every time a new video comes out, you can jump on and see it. Hope you guys enjoyed it.